Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Get Comfy, where today we are joined by Amanda, and depending on where the camera is, a tiny little cute puppy named Percy. Amanda, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Fallout and the general Fallout universe.
Perfect. So grab your Twinkies and your cockroaches, and let's get comfy.
You can be a hero by purchasing a residence in a Vault-Tec vault today. Because if the worst should happen tomorrow, the world is going to need you to build a better day after.
Okay, so if you joined us last week, you know that I have absolutely no idea what these games are. Haven't watched the show yet. I've heard nothing but great things about the show. And that's coming from like avid players of the game, which is like awesome. Because Halo did not receive the same, love.
Halo, you know what you did.
Yeah, Halo. And Bungie.
Epic fail.
So let's jump into the games first, because the games came out first, naturally.
That's true.
So have you been playing like since the beginning? Like, did you get it like when Fallout 1 came out and you're just like, this is my life now?
So I did not. Fallout 1 came out in 1997 and it was only for the computer.
So you were like 3.
I was 4, thank you.
Okay.
But no, I actually have not played Fallout 1 or 2. Mainly just because they're only on computer and I am an Xbox girl, sadly.
There's no such thing as a PC master race. It doesn't exist. Get that out of your head. It's Switch or nothing. It's the only game system to play. Okay, so when did you jump in then?
I jumped in with Fallout 3, which came out in 2008, I believe.
Okay.
Right. I didn't actually finish the game. I have hours and hours and hours of gameplay, probably several days worth, actually. And then when Fallout 4 came, I was like, might as well jump into this one while everybody's playing it.
Okay, cool. So they're like RPGs, right? Like it's not
Yes.
a linear storyline, so you can just kind of branch out and do side quests for days. And
Oh yeah, that is why I haven't actually made it that far through the main quests in either of the games, despite the fact that I'm still playing Fallout 4, because I have been doing all of the side quests first and actively avoiding the main storyline.
Fallout 4 from like 10 years ago? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's devotion. So you have like an old console just dedicated to playing Fallout 4 still.
I have my Xbox One that's basically just, I turn it on to play Fallout 4, and that's kind of it. And The Sims.
And The Sims. Those are good game catalogs. Yeah. So, okay, so, I mean, we touched on it a little bit in the Get Uncomfy. So if we have Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 from the 90s, and then you jumped in Fallout 3 in 2008, so I know the newer games aren't direct sequels to each other. Does anything tie back to the original Fallout 1 and Fallout 2? Or is like Fallout 3 kind of a remake of Fallout 1 and 2 to get like new fans in? Or
That's a good question. So pretty much all of the games that have been released, even though they've been released by a ton of different developers, like Interplay created the first one, eventually moved to Black Isle. Black Isle later does one of the other games as well. Or sorry, Obsidian takes that one. Bethesda has most of the rights now, but they're still producing other games with other developers, like Fallout New Vegas, completely different developer.
Okay, does it all have the same gameplay though?
There's a big shift between the original games, which are like a third person looking down on a like walls and stuff game, to the first person point of view in the Fallout 3 games.
Okay. I don't know why. I always thought it was like third person, like running behind them, kind of like, Zelda style and all that.
Oh, you might be thinking of the Gears of War games.
Maybe.
Similar kind of look.
Similar vibe.
Yeah.
I did play the fuck out of Gears of War. That was a great game. Oh, actually, the game we played was Beers of War. It's much harder, but follow us later for instructions on that. It's a two-step process. Okay, cool. So give me your initial thoughts on Fallout 3. What hooked you? Like what was the aspect of the game that you were like, shit, I need to keep playing this for the rest of my life?
So I am a giant sucker for retrofuturism of any kind, which if you are new to this, retrofuturism is basically the view of what the future could be from the point of view of people in the 1950s and 60s. So you're flying cars, but they also have that kind of like chrome look to them. Or
so like the Jetsons.
Like the Jetsons,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what drew you in, and then so the apocalyptic version of it didn't pull you out of it at all? Was that kind of like the extra like seasoning on top of that taco?
Oh, absolutely. So the like an atomic based apocalypse isn't just something that happened in Fallout. It's something that you could tell in pre-war society was so inevitable because every aspect of their lives has radiation. Like there are board games for children that are setting off an atomic bomb that are actually radioactive that you can get in the game.
That doesn't seem like it was like it went through the proper channels of testing. I
It's
feel like that's not safe.
Well, I mean, think about all the weird, like dangerous stuff that we know is dangerous, but we don't really care about it because it's so ingrained in our society.
Like lawn darts.
Like lawn darts and the fact that we're all addicted to caffeine, even though we know it's an addictive drug.
I can stop whenever I want to.
I only
You and
had
your
3 cups of
monster.
coffee this morning. So we're fine.
That's doing pretty well for you today.
That is great for me. I'm usually a pot and a half guy.
Justin, fresh pot!
So if the game takes place, we found out earlier in like 1976. No. 2076.
So the bombs drop on October 23rd, 2077.
Okay.
So even though the game looks like it's the 1950s with, you know, flying cars in some cases, it's actually not so distant future now.
That's kind of scary.
The timelines, as far as we know so far, diverged some point around the end of World War II. And one of the main like lead ups to this war is the fact that the United States has basically run out of gasoline. So all of this stuff is being replaced by atomic power. There's even fusion power in some small cases.
So the explosion then, was that an attack or was that just like a radioactive plant gone wrong?
So it was definitely bombs that were dropped.
Okay.
The games are always very vague about who exactly dropped it.
Okay. Smart on their part. They don't want to,
Yeah.
start insinuating stuff and having like, major powers of the world getting pissed and not playing this game.
Yeah, the game actually is a war between U.S. and China when it's going on, and some allied states on either side. But the United States has annexed Canada and just basically treated it as Canada was always belonging to the United States. We're just going to rewrite that history.
Okay. I respect it. Do all the games take place in like the same general time period? Just like following different people?
They vary a few, like, by years. Generally, each game takes place a few years after the last, and they're set in different locations, so they kind of can just start fresh with
Okay.
all of the main lore. And you kind of have a split between the East Coast games and the West Coast games. So Bethesda likes to set all of its stuff on the East Coast because then they don't have to worry too much. But it looks like the TV show is actually going to tie both of those back together so they can continue on.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So in this world, is there like hopes of getting back together, or is it kind of just like Mad Max where everyone's just like accepted the world they live in and they're just like, it's gonna happen?
It depends on the faction. A lot of people want to save the world, but they disagree on how they want to do it.
Okay.
And one of the key elements of the game is that war never changes. You will always have these same conflicts arising. You generally have like 3 factions that you can side with in a game, and who you choose vastly affects the outcome of the end of the game.
Oh, so you don't have your set character for each game. Like you don't always play like Samantha Rodriguez who wakes up in the same vault. Like you can choose like what faction you want to be involved with.
Yeah, you're like Samantha Rodriguez, but she's a blank slate and you can kind of just apply anything. So you can go very different builds. Like you could do like a stealthy character who likes to lie and cheat their way into things. Or you can be like a paladin and just always be the good guy all the time. And your companions will actually react completely differently based on their own emotions and like backstories to that.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So we'll deviate a little bit just because I do want to get into the new show, which just dropped on, was it Amazon Prime?
Yes, it is
is
an
that what
Amazon
got it? So I haven't seen it. Obviously, I've seen commercials for it because you can't escape it. And I know the guy who plays No Nose Johnny. I've seen him in like 300 other things, and I think he's a fantastic actor. I don't know his name off the top of my head. What was it?
The Ghoul?
The Ghoul, yes. Whatever his real name is. Probably not the Ghoul unless he's that could be like a French name.
The Ghoul is
Le
played
Ghoul.
by Walter Goggins.
Walter Goggins. I can't think of anything else I've seen him in, but I think he's a fantastic actor. I've never been disappointed in his stuff. And I've heard nothing but great things about the main actress of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get your opinion, because avid lover of the games, you've obviously binged the whole show. So
Oh, I loved it. And if you are out there and you're planning to make an adaptation of basically any video game, take notes because this is how you do it. They didn't just pick a game to adapt. They basically created an entire new game that is still canon to the entire universe and went from like, you have the Vault Dweller who is leaving the vault and going out to explore this new world. You have multiple different representations of like the different character types that you can do. There's also this fantastic delve into what the pre-war society was like as well, which you only get like bits and pieces through the games.
So they have like tiny little flashback type deal. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's cool. Is it just like they find a random like journal laying around and they're like, oh, what's this? And they open it up, or
Yeah.
is it like through the eyes of, I'm just going to keep calling her Samantha Rodriguez because that's the name we came up with. Was she like coming out of cryostasis so she still has her previous memories?
No, so the cryostasis is actually something that is specific to Vault 111. I don't know if I should say this because it's kind of a spoiler, but basically each vault is run a little differently. Some of them were done better than others, and there's different like opportunities for society to go wrong, as it does in real life anyway. And some of those are slightly artificially induced. But her particular vault is just kind of like, as far as you know in the first episode or so, it's very like nice. Everybody gets along really well together. They've kind of adapted this mentality of like, you have to be good to your neighbors because your neighbors are going to be there for the rest of your life and you're stuck in these like four walls with them.
Okay. All right. I like that. That was a good explanation without like absolutely ruining anything from the show. So I can respect that. Unless you did ruin something and I just didn't pick up on it. But
We'll find out.
so that was a pretty good pitch, but give me your hard pitch. Say there's someone who hates TV, never watches TV, never plays video games, only reads books, and you say, no, you need to watch this. This is like the best thing that's come out in the past 10 years. Sell me on it.
right.
Make me watch this show.
Okay. Are you tired of watching shows that have happy-go-lucky views of the future? Do you want to see something that's an absolute takedown of late-stage capitalism? Do you want to know what happens if the United States runs out of oil and starts moving on to atomic power with absolutely no regulations on any of the corporations that are involved in it? You should watch Fallout. Also, if you like some of your main characters being very hooked on drugs, also Fallout.
Bethesda, if you're watching this, you owe us money if you want to use that. Specifically her. Okay, no, I do have plans on watching this. I'm currently hooked on a show called Somebody Feed Phil. It's not important, but it's adorable and I'm hooked on it. So I have like 4 seasons left and then we have Fallout to jump into. So it's definitely like next on our list. So I'm very excited to get into it, but I have never played any of the games. But this is like something that you can go into, just watch the show without playing any of the games. And you can still fully, I guess you can understand the show without, I guess, picking up on Easter eggs, but it's still like a fleshed out show in and of itself.
Definitely agreed. So, Dan, you watched the show, but you didn't play the games. What was your take on it?
I thought it did a really good job of showing a side of the apocalypse that a lot of other shows and movies don't. Like, it's more realistic in ways that I care to think about it being. It gives an accurate representation of how I feel like Americans would actually treat the apocalypse by trying to like monetize it. So it's real depressing, but unfortunately probably accurate.
What do you think is more realistic? The way that Fallout depicts the future of America or the way that Idiocracy predicts the future of America?
I think Fallout, because Idiocracy is kind of just like, things happen because, we don't think about the future, but we're like, Fallout's like, we need the apocalypse because we want to make our own future that no one else like kind of wants. It's very like corporate greed driven.
Interesting.
Not that Idiocracy isn't, but like there's calculated and then there's Terry Crews being president. So it's one
Which is
way
the
or
most
other.
calculated thing I've ever heard of in my
Give
life.
it 10 years. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So, and I don't know. The questions are just coming up because I don't know anything. So when basically the world did the hard reset, if you're saying it was more corporate generated, so was there like the Illuminati in the background that was in their underground bunkers that had everything set up to then take over the world once the fallout, disappeared?
There is actually a faction called the Enclave who basically did just that. They had formed essentially a shadow government,
Okay.
which is just like a group of corporations that are also controlling the government. I mean, kind of like our current setup is, where you can just have people in the government who used to be the heads of companies making the new regulations for those companies, but taking that to the extreme.
Okay.
Their plan was basically wait for everybody to die, come back, start a new world. They actually wanted to take all of their people off planet originally and just like settle somewhere else.
Okay.
Just kind of like peace out. And but that failed because of an explosion with their rocket.
Oh, okay. So they had the technology to like terraform another planet, and it just okay. That's cool. So the vaults how big are these vaults? Are they like neighborhood sized or like town sized or
So
state sized?
So in the games, you kind of get the impression that the vaults are pretty small, but that's been revealed through like Fallout Shelter and through the TV show that you're only really seeing like a tiny fraction of it. In the show, they explain like the one vault that you see has like 12 different levels, and you have like farming levels and levels that are taking care of like water and stuff.
Okay.
So very, very large, but you generally only see the common areas when you're exploring them.
Okay. Do they know of the other vaults, or is that one of those things where it's like if you're in the vault, your head is, oh, I'm stuck in this vault, I'm going to live here forever? Is it like the government is saying, don't go outside, you'll die?
So the vaults are kind of similar to something that happened in the 1960s, where there's the threat of nuclear war looming.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of government offices and like courthouses and stuff start building bunkers. And where everything here was like, building personal bunkers in the back of your house, there's even some around here. In Fallout, it was more a corporation that is basically selling the idea of the future, but underground. So there are hundreds of these built across the United States and like one or two in Canada. And it's like advertised absolutely everywhere. Like you see billboards in the games, there are tie-in t-shirts and posters saying like, wouldn't life be better underground and stuff like that. That's where you get the image of the Vault Boy.
Okay. That's fun. It's like, wouldn't it be better if we were just mole men, just hanging out underground? Okay, cool. So before we wrap this up, I have a lot of weird questions. So you just talked about the Vault Boy, which is great. Nuka-Cola. What is that? How did that come across? Or is that just their Coca-Cola that they just rebranded Nuka-Cola because it fit with the dynamic? Or is there like actually like,
So
here's Coke with radiation in it that we found out tastes better?
no, that's Nuka-Cola Quantum.
Oh, okay.
which-
I always get the two confused.
They actually made a real tie-in of that in the like 2015, right when Fallout 4 came out.
Okay.
You could buy it. It was a mediocre soda at best. But,
Checks out.
So yeah, Nuka-Cola is basically just like Coca-Cola. It has the same like impact on society. It's in absolutely everything. Every store has it. But it becomes really important to post-war society because the bottle caps for it become the new currency. So
Okay, so that's where that plays in.
yeah,
Okay.
during the Great War, inflation is so ridiculously bad that their comics cost like $40 per comic.
Wow. That's so unbelievable and couldn't happen ever.
But it's kind of the situation like pre-World War II Germany, where people were taking like shopping carts full of money in order to go buy things. After the war, there's so much paper money, so much of it is degraded. I mean, people were carrying stacks of this stuff around. And they realized that they don't have the technology to manufacture new cap lids. So this is a perfect, like, non-fungible token.
That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. It's like it rewrote like it's the new gold. You know, does I guess like gold and silver and all that stuff doesn't really mean anything to anyone.
They still exist. They're useful in crafting things, but they don't seem to really be used as like any sort of secondary currency.
Okay. And then the last question I have kind of stemmed off of what you said earlier. So you built a house for your dog.
Yes, I did.
So I take it you just get like a plot of land. How like modifiable is that? Like, is that like on the level of The Sims where you like lay out your walls and your rooms and everything? Or is it more like
So
Animal Crossing?
basically, in Fallout 4 settlement modification, you can get like pre-built like shacks and shanties that you can pop in, or you can also build everything with just little tile pieces that click together sometimes. It just kind of
I sense a tiny bit of like anger based on that comment.
Bethesda, I love them. I love their games. I 100%ed Oblivion, and I'm still playing Skyrim to this day. But good God, their object snapping is terrible. Like, items will think that they're colliding with each other and then just suddenly explode off into the distance for no apparent reason, and it will glitch your game out. It's so frustrating. And like trying to set an object onto, like, you can build shelves, right?
Okay.
But putting anything on a shelf is a nightmare because for some reason it tries to snap everything like halfway through a shelf. So
That darn nuclear radiation.
yeah, as much as
Fusing
I'm
things.
complaining about it, the reason that I currently have like 5 actual days of gameplay isn't because I've been playing the game so much as I've just been building my settlements. So in Fallout 4, you meet a character who's created the Minutemen. And less created, more recreated. They were an old organization that kind of fell to the inevitable corruption of all.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to restart it as something better. And in it, you're trying to like get all these little towns that people have made, or just sometimes it's like a shack in the middle of the woods. And you're trying to get those settlers to align with yours, and then you can build and like control the like how much water supply, how much defense they have.
Cool. Cool. So, and then you said we're potentially getting Fallout 5. It might potentially be in the works.
Yes. So Fallout 5 has been something that's coming that has no official date for a very long time.
So it's like Grand Theft Auto. The sequel's coming in your lifetime, probably.
It's been pretty cool though, because like seeing the stuff from the side, like apparently Steam has had like a 300% like player increase since the show came out. Like a mod officially was released by Bethesda for Fallout 4 like just a couple weeks ago after the game hadn't gotten anything in like years. So
That's really cool.
it's
honestly.
probably something that they're just like, let's publish a lot of stuff for this one and just take our time with the new one. But they're probably working on the 17th iteration of Skyrim for something else at this point.
The remastered re-release of Skyrim. So, okay. And now I have a question for you, Third Mike Dan.
For me.
For you. Is this game a game that you can sit back and watch someone else play and fully enjoy? Or is it something where you watch someone else play and you just get very frustrated because you're like, no, I would rather do it this way?
So it's very dialogue.
Amanda's not here. You can speak.
It's very dialogue driven. So like every conversation you have can go in like 20 different branches of directions.
Okay.
So like everything you say will impact it. And like something I've Amanda and I talked about, like
pause.
Let's pause the camera.
Percy.
Sorry about that, guys. We had to cut really quick because a certain little animal over here had to take a shit on the floor.
Amanda.
And yeah, so Percy wanted to come in to relieve that. Dan.
Yes.
Third Mike Dan.
Yes.
As someone who hasn't played the game, but you've watched Amanda play the game, is this a game that you still fully enjoy just being a spectator, or does it kind of like frustrate you? Because obviously you can go 300 different directions. And what is your gameplay style versus Amanda's gameplay style?
So I would have already beaten the game by this point, is what I can say. So that's a good thing for people that love a very long gaming experience, because at least Fallout 4, you can play it and go through like 3 or 4 different paths in the beginning, and then each path is like its own individual playthrough. Like you can't like swap or do anything. So you're kind of locked in after you start. So if you're a completionist, the game is great for you. But there's like a lot to do, and every conversation you have has like 4 options where you can answer a question, and then that has 4 more options and stuff like that. So it's not the best for a side watch person, but if you love to just game by yourself, it's probably the best for you.
That was a very nice version of that. In reality, most of what he's watching when I'm going through is me going through every room, opening every container.
Oh no, I would hate to play D&D with you then. Do you play the same way?
No, not really, actually. I'm kind of like a, we're going to cause chaos and throw shit around character
Okay, cool.
in D&D.
You're blowing it up kind of girl. I like it. Just like Percy.
Yeah.
Blowing it up.
Blowing it up. But thank you for joining us this week. And thank you, Amanda, for joining us and talking about Fallout.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to see more of Amanda, make sure to check out last week's episode of Get Uncomfy, where I attempted to make up my own storyline for Fallout based on a couple images that were shown. And make sure to tune in next week as we give you more great quality material. Thanks, guys. See you around.